Hey guys, we are back, as you know, for this new semester of D groups. And in case you missed last week's video, this semester we're going to be working through the parables of Jesus. So last week Mark talked about one parable, talked a lot about basketball too, if you missed it. But I'm going to be leading us through another parable today, and I hope that as we walk through this series, you guys will be able to see that all these stories we have in the Bible are still relevant to our lives today, and everything that it involves to be a Christian in 2021. So that's what we're hoping to do with this series, and this will be our last virtual D group this week. So we're gonna be back in person starting February 4th for middle school. So we'll be in the Harpeth House, which is where I am now. And I'm really excited to have you guys in this building together so that we can do D groups in person again. Because as fun as it is to be here with Carl, I really miss you guys a lot. So one last announcement. If you guys are interested in helping on the worship team at any point, if you have musical abilities, I really love when you guys have musical abilities. I do not have any. So if you have some and want to share them with the rest of us, we would love to see you guys use your talents on the worship team. So if you want to send Evan a text, he would love to start talking to you and get you connected and get you on the worship team. So let us know if you're interested in that. Okay, those are all the announcements I have for you guys. So we're going to go ahead and dive into a parable. This parable is found in Matthew chapter 13. If you have a Bible and want to turn there, go ahead. If not, I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. This is Matthew 13. We're going to look at verses 44 and 45. These are actually two different parables, but they're telling kind of the same story in two different ways. So I'm going to read both of them. So Matthew 13:44 says, "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who, on finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it." Okay, so I've talked to a lot of you guys about this. You probably know that this past summer, I watched for the first time Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's a fantastic show. If I haven't talked to you about it, I'm kind of surprised because if you were here this summer, I talked about it a lot. So in that show, if you haven't seen it, that's okay. The concept is similar to a lot of shows. They're basically 4 kids on a mission traveling around the world to save the world. So these kids, some of them have like special powers of some kind, and but I'll get to that in a second. So they're wandering around the world. They're stopping in all of these different villages and, you know, preparing for their great saving the world moment. Don't know how to describe that. So they're just this ragtag bunch of kids traveling around. And one of them, her name is Toph. One of them is a blind earthbender, okay? So earthbenders in the Avatar universe have the ability to, they have like special control of the earth, right? Like rocks and the earth, all of that. So Toph is this little girl. She's probably like 12 years old. And people, one of the main things about her character is that people think that she's really helpless. She's this little girl and she's blind, and they're like, oh, you probably need a lot of help with a lot of things. And she's actually an incredibly powerful earthbender. So in this one village they go to, they're only here for a couple of days. So they stop in this village and they don't really have much. They have a little bit of money and a little bit of supplies, but they're pretty much, you know, they just travel with what they can carry, and it's not much. So while they're in this village, Toph decides to start scamming some people to make a little bit of money. And they don't get away with it in the end. Scamming, not a good thing. But for the purpose of this story, they're trying to make some more money. So once they've scammed a good bit of people because people don't know that Toph has this ability. She's kind of undercover. She decides to take a risk. So they meet this one street vendor who, I know you guys are familiar with the game where you have like 3 bowls and there's something under it, kind of like what we played at the Christmas party. But this guy was moving, switching the bowls around really fast. So like you can't tell where the initial bowl with like the coin, or I think it was a little rock that was under it. So the game is he wants you to like guess when he's done switching them around where the rock is at the bottom. So he is trying to trick people. Obviously, he doesn't want them to know because they have to like pay money to play the game. But Toph, he does not know, is an earthbender. She knows where the rock is because she can like feel it in some way. So they get to this point where they've won a little bit of money, they have something to offer. And now this guy, it's like the point in the game show where he goes double or nothing. If she wins this round, he'll give her so much more than they already have. But they have to give up everything that they have to play this last round, okay? So they're holding, in all the animated shows, they have like bags of coins, like big heavy bags. So they give away everything they have. They hand over tons of bags of money to this guy to play this game. And Toph doesn't even hesitate. She's like, yes, take everything that we have, because she knows something that he doesn't know, which is that she has this ability to know where the rock is, okay? So she's so confident that she is going to end up with so much more than she came in with that she doesn't hesitate. She gives it all away, trusting that what she's going to get in the end is greater than what she gave away. So they win all the money, which I think you saw coming. She doesn't have the best motives. Yes, scamming people was, maybe not the best way to illustrate this story. But Toph demonstrates this faith in knowing what she's going to get at the end, that she's so willing to give everything else up for the sake of that one thing, which I think is really similar to what Paul actually talks about in Philippians. So I'm going to read one more passage if you guys want to turn there. This is in Philippians chapter 3. Paul says, this is starting in verse 4. Paul says, if anyone else thinks he has reason for confidence in the flesh, I have more. Circumcised on the 8th day, of the people of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews, as to the law, a Pharisee, as to zeal, a persecutor of the church, as to righteousness under the law, blameless. But whatever gain I had, I counted as a loss for the sake of Christ. Indeed, I count everything as loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus, my Lord. So Paul lists off all of these things that other people would say make him valuable. All these qualifications that make him impressive, in a lot of ways make him what he is. But what he says at the end of that is that he counts all of that as nothing because he's found something that's worth so much more. It's compared to the worth of knowing Christ, compared to the worth of the kingdom of heaven, which is just like these men in the parables. Like Toph and like Paul, they found one treasure, one pearl that was worth more than any of the other pearls that this man had found, or this treasure, like he's struck oil in this field and he knows how valuable it is, so he's willing to give away everything else that he's had for a long time, things that are valuable, but he joyfully gives up everything for that one thing because he knows that that value surpasses everything else that he has.
So that is the end of my story and this parable. I'll end it like Mark does, I guess. But I hope that you guys have a great last virtual D group. And I'm really excited that you guys are going to get to come into this Harpeth house, and that next week we'll be able to do this in person all together. So just know that we miss you guys and we're thinking about you and we love you guys. Have a good D group.